What's going on, everybody? My name is Jason and I make posters. Welcome to another Shoegaze Saturday. In my opinion, when it comes to ambient sound and just straight up noise rock, it doesn't get any better than Astrobrite. Scott Cortez of Love Lies Crushing is the man behind Astrobrite, and I've got to say, I like Astrobrite better than I like Love Lies Crushing. And personally, my favorite album is All the Stars Will Fall. I'm holding up just the booklet because this album cover is so dark that it's actually really hard to see if it's in the jewel case. And the album art really does give you a good idea of what you're going to expect when you listen to this. It's just straight up chaos. Once I recommended this album to somebody and their response was, "This album scares me." Astrobrite truly is the World 8 of shoegaze. It's an album you can get lost in, so I want to create a poster that gives you the same feeling. So I'm just looking around here at some images on Unsplash, and I want to find a good balance of blue and purple, and I want to try to find something that doesn't have too many effects on it already. So I like this one with the stars, the Milky Way. We're definitely going to consider that one. And I also like this tree right here. So I'm going to download both of these, and we're going to play around. All right, so I may actually end up printing this. It is a possibility. So I'm gonna start off as a 24 by 36, and we are just gonna go all the way up here to the edges here, and then we'll lay this one on top of it. And earlier I said I wanted to try to find some images that didn't have too many effects on them, and that's because we're gonna apply our own effects. So I'm gonna hide the star layer for now, and I'm just gonna go ahead and blend this one to the background. First thing I'm gonna do up here is gonna go to Filter and Liquify. And what's really cool about this tool is you can follow this to make any kind of abstract art that you want to. So I want something that's just absolute straight up chaos. Typically what I would do is, kind of do something like this, drag those pixels, like in all these different directions and everything. But generally they kind of follow that same contour. I'm not gonna do that this time. I'm actually gonna lower the brush size to about around here or so, and then spend some time in just creating the most chaotic patterns and directions that I can think of. And I'm gonna do this for a while, so I'm just gonna speed this portion up. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to enlarge the brush, and we're gonna grab some of these sections right here and just kind of smooth it out a little bit to give it a little bit more of a contrast. When it comes to the Liquify tool, it really is all about experimenting. So just kind of play around with it and just see what you can do. And I want to bring in some of these really chaotic lines, and I want to make sure that we give plenty of balance here. And if you're a perfectionist like me, you can definitely run into some of these situations where you just don't think that you're ever going to get there, but you will. So I want to just kind of close in these large gaps right here, and I want mostly everything that we see to be these real chaotic lines here. We can certainly leave some of these spots open, but I think I'm just going to go in here, lower my brush size a little bit, and kind of close up those gaps. And we don't have to close them up entirely. We just need to give them a little bit of a prominence, but not too much. The key here is you want to give plenty to look at within the poster itself. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this. It's interesting, actually. This kind of looks like an evil face. This kind of looks like an eye right here, and the mouth is open at the bottom. Here's the nose. So it is pretty crazy what you can do with this tool, making it really super abstract. All right, so I'm gonna hit OK, and that's gonna apply our effect to this. So we went from this to this. So it's crazy what you can do in really chaoticizing your imagery, if that's a word. It is a word, I just made it up. Okay, so if you zoom in here full screen, you can actually see a lot of areas right here. Like, it's nice and smooth in some areas, but it's really jagged and kind of blurry in some other ones. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go up here to Filter, Stylize, Oil Paint. And what this is gonna do is this is really gonna smooth over a lot of these jagged areas. I'm gonna turn off lighting right here because I'm not a big fan of that. So for a nice clean look, just turn everything up to 10 and turn off lighting. And you can see here now, like, everything is nice and even. We've got a nice even tone here. However, we wanna give this some depth, so we're gonna add a tilt shift blur. And you go up to Filter, Blur Gallery, Tilt Shift. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna blur some sections of the image while leaving some other ones unblurred. And it works really well in giving some depth. I usually like to go pretty high, like maybe around 50 or something like that. And what's cool about this, you can actually control where those blurs are starting and stopping. And this is your overall tilt shift blur, so you can move it down here if you want to. It doesn't have to be centered. And now looking at this, I'm probably going to back it off a little bit, so we'll probably take it up to about a 30 instead of 50. All right, I'm pretty happy with that, so we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And so as you can see, we've got blurry up here, blurry towards the bottom, and then in the middle, nice and crisp. And then to further reinforce it, I'm just going to add some shadows in those areas where the blurs are. All right, so I created a new layer called shadows, and we're going to bring up our brush tool to probably around 2500 or so. Make sure that our hardness is all the way down to a 0. And I'm just going to start painting here in these little corners right here, just in some of the areas where we kind of have some of that blur going on. And it doesn't matter what it looks like right now. We're just going to use opacity to help blend this into the image. All right, so that's looking good right there. You can tell there's already a good amount of depth here. So all we have to do is lower this to about like anywhere between 25 and 50%. 50 can tend to be a little bit harsh, but I think it works really well for this. So when you're looking at this, you can tell like this is already starting to kind of look like a photograph rather than digital art. But there's one thing that's missing, and that is adding a layer of grain. Adding a layer of grain will always help to give your manipulations more dimension. So I'm going to go 100, and then size, I'm going to do 25, and then roughness, I'm going to do 25. And then to help further reinforce the depth, I'm going to add a vignette. All right, so just adding in this as an overlay layer right here. So if you zoom into 100%, we can see our grain right here. And because we've got this at an overlay layer, as it's actually going to those darker areas in the background for the shadows, it's actually helping to blend in with it. So this is what the whole thing looks like right here, and we're not done yet. All right, so now I'm gonna bring up our star background, and I'm gonna drop this below our grain layer and also below our shadows layer. Right now our blending mode is at normal, so I'm just gonna play around with these blending modes to see if there's anything that will help to blend this. And right now our blending mode for it is normal, so I'm just gonna play around with some blending modes and see what happens. All right, so I think that out of all of them, my favorite one is soft light. So we'll get like an at a glance thing going on here, and we'll just see what's happening. So as you can see, when we zoom in here, we've got these nice stars and everything that are just kind of blending in, and that's perfect because the name of the album is All the Stars Will Fall. So maybe we should reinforce that imagery a little bit and make it look like the stars are falling. All right, so I'm gonna go up here to Filter, Blur, and Motion Blur. Change the angle to about 45 degrees or so. And for the distance, we'll just kind of play around with it. All right, so I like an angle of 75 with a distance of 50. And the reason why is because you can see that it looks like the stars are falling and we can actually see them. But we need to go through and actually brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to go to our levels and make sure that this only applies to our stars layer. And I'm going to bring this right side over to probably around 175 or so. And then the left side, we're going to bring up to about a 50. And that's really going to saturate our colors here, but it's also going to help to show those stars a little bit better. Okay, so overall, I'm very happy with this poster, but I'm going to add in a few lighting effects. Overall, I just feel like the whole poster is very dark, so I'm just going to brighten it up using our curves. And we don't want to go too much in terms of our contrast because then you get into looking something like this and we lose all of our texture. But just kind of playing around with it and finding a really good balance where we're brightening it up while also maintaining all of our texture. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to add in some typography. And my personal rule with typography is always put it together in Illustrator and then copy it and paste it into Photoshop. All right, so I recently found this font and I do like it a lot. It's nice and commanding while still being very sophisticated. We'll paste this from Illustrator into Photoshop. And as our text goes, I'm not going to make it pure white, and the reason why is because I want some of those effects to show up. So here it is at 100% view, and because it's not pure white, you can actually see a little bit of that grain happening. And I lowered this just a little bit more so you can actually see what I'm talking about, but I am going to bring it back up to around 80 to 85%, and I wanted to pick a good area right here to actually lay down the band name. So now we will add in the album title, and this will be significantly smaller, maybe even smaller than that actually. All right, that looks good. My margins for these 24 by 36 posters are generally like 2 1/8, so we will align that to the bottom there. And I feel that we need to add a little bit of a black background on these text pieces. So let's do like an outer glow. It can be nice and subtle. What you want to do is you want to make it look like it doesn't have a glow on it. So we're just going to kind of play around with this one here. Just want to give it enough where you can easily read this against the background. And then we'll do the same thing to the album title. All right, so there is our Astrobrite All the Stars Will Fall poster put together in Photoshop using our liquify tool and a couple of other things just to finish off the effects. I might end up getting this printed because I just love this album. All right, well, I hope you like that poster, and if you're a Shoegaze fan and you haven't listened to Astrobrite, definitely go listen to them. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe at the bottom and click the bell for notifications to be notified of all new content. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.